In voiceover, having a great voice is probably the least important thing about having a great career. And if that surprises you, this episode is exactly what you need to hear. Welcome to Get Messy, the mindset space for creatives who want to build sustainable and successful careers without losing their sanity. I'm Maddie, professional performer of over a decade. I'm currently in grad school to become a therapist, and I'm the friend who's not afraid to dig deep, and I will never BS you about what it takes to actually stay in the game. Today's episode is a little bit different. Instead of a traditional interview style, I'm sitting down with one of my friends and fellow voiceover actor, Olivia Sarafina Washington, for a real, unfiltered conversation about what it's actually like to build a career in voiceover. And we're going to talk about a lot of the parts that nobody wants to put on their Instagram highlight reel. Olivia and I have both been in this industry long enough to have some opinions, and this episode is us sharing them. We talk about how both of our careers were shaped less by having the right voice and more by being in the right room at the right time and knowing how to connect with the people in it. We get into what we miss about in-person auditions, how to survive a session when the client notes are vague and 12 people are talking all over each other, because it happens, and what a genuinely healthy relationship with your reps actually looks like, plus the red flags that should send you running. We also cover how to get representation in the first place, the single versus multiple agents debate, and why casting director classes might be one of the most underrated tools in a VO actor's toolkit. This one is honest, practical, and a little bit of a love letter to an industry that we both are deeply committed to. Without further ado, let's get into it. Also, just as a side note, Olivia and I recorded this episode back in December 2025. I know that was a long ass time ago. And so things kind of shifted in the way I initially wanted to release this episode, which is why it's coming to you now. I think a lot of what we talked about has not changed, but the industry does change incredibly fast. So just a little teeny bit of context of when specifically this was recorded for you. Olivia, so excited to do this. Today, we're going to talk about reps. We're going to talk about community. We're going to talk about casting directors classes, kind of like all the people in the VO side of the business. And you and I both have interesting stories of how we got started in VO.
Defo.
You want to kick us off?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Because I feel like people ask us that all the time, right? How'd you get started?
We touched on it in our original episode, but with the theme of what we're talking about, who you know and who likes you, when I booked the SoFi year-long campaign, I was going in person. So this was 2019. The way my whole career started is literally going in person, recording, and the owner of that studio introduced me to my current agent. So it was like, I'm doing stuff. They're saying, hey, you seem pretty good. Hey, I have some friends. I like you. I like them. And together we merged. And that's what kicked off me signing with DDL. So I don't think it gets more who you know than that. Like, my whole career is based on who I know and who liked me at the time. What's your connect?
Yeah, I feel like similarly, you and I both fell into voiceover. Like, we were pursuing other avenues. I had a manager. He had some clients with DPN. He was like, you want to try voiceover? And I was like, sure, why not? And I had a meeting with Vince at DPN, and he told me I was green. He's like, we're going to hip pocket you. We're going to test it out. We're going to see. But similarly to you, DPN, even their auditions back in the day were in person. So I'd go in person, I would audition, and then I just like started booking. And now I've been with them for a decade this month.
Yeah. There's something special.
Right? Because so many people, I feel like that's the biggest question is like, I want to do voiceover. How do I find rep? And then they'll ask, well, how did you find rep? And I was like, in this weird way.
I also have a story where, like, I remember back when auditions were in person, I went in New York, and I was running in on the elevator, and someone was like running behind me, this woman, and I was like, oh, and I like held the elevator for her. We're on the elevator. She's like, hey, good morning. I'm like, good morning. And it's a building that has like 10,000 offices. So like, yes, we happen to get off on the same floor, but like, whatever. So we get in, and I walk in the door, and she kind of walks in behind me, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're both going to this audition. She walks into the office, and she's like, all right, guys, I'll give you 5 minutes to set up. It was the casting director. I literally booked the job because when I went in, she was like, it was really great that you held the elevator for me. I also happened to have the skills to book it, but we had a better and nicer rapport because we just had that small human in-person moment. Gosh, I really, really miss that. There's something about going in person and meeting people and having a human connection that I don't know, I just lean towards more. Everything that I've done in person, either I've gotten on hold for or booked it, whether that's like on camera or voiceover. So I really miss that because I know that there's an element of my aura. And as humans, we just share a magnetism that can really only be sometimes in person.
I could not agree more. I miss recording in person, auditioning at casting offices, auditioning at DPN, because to your point, I feel like when we're connecting with another person, I'm way more out of my head. I'm like focused on them, listening to them, like we're doing our thing, like we have that rapport. I'm not thinking like, does this sound good? Should I like try? Like I'm just there with them.
Correct. I feel the exact same way. Even if we have auditions, we used to have auditions where the casting director would like have a call time where they'd call you while you're in your own booth. Like even if you weren't in person. I had a couple of those auditions where they're just giving live direction. It's so helpful. That's how I booked Hershey's because I recorded for like a Hershey's milk chocolate with a guided direction with the casting director. And she was like, oh, good, good, good. And I never heard back. But then they pulled me in for Hershey's cookies and cream months later. But it's because she remembered how I worked with her and it was good. But like if they're getting such a small glimpse of us as actors when we're sending in these self tapes that I'm like, I feel like it's almost making their job harder, like casting directors.
Probably.
Because they're like, we don't really know this person. Yeah.
Totally. And there's a couple casting directors I know in LA that will give you the option now because they miss it. They still have their offices and they'll be like, if you're in LA, and I'm like, I'm not in LA, but like I get why they want to do it too. Because yeah, for them, it's the same thing, like that connection, that personal interaction. How can you take direction? Because you know from being on a job, 97% is like how well you can take direction.
Correct. It's really not about voice. I want to say this to camera because people will be like, I've had people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I have a really good voice. People keep telling me I have a really good voice. And I'm like, what acting training do you have? Because the acting training, and everyone says it, they're like, it's 80% acting, 20% voice, but it's really true. I would even say it's more like 50% acting, 40% how you communicate and can take direction, and maybe 10% voice. Because I've been in sessions where when I was a little greener, it ended up being a really, really long session because there is a language that producers and directors use in session with you where not all of them speak the same language as you. So as an actor, you have to be polylingual or something like that.
Totally, where you're like, I'm catching your drift and I'm catching your drift and I'm catching your drift and I'm able to like interpret it and then make a decision off of it quickly and efficiently. Yeah.
Because they're like, well, this is your job, so do it. But I also, oh my gosh, there's such a special thing when you get a director that you just gel with. Oh my gosh, the session is so juicy and yummy. But you wouldn't know what that feels like until you have sessions with directors that speak a totally different language than you and who may not even know what they're talking about. I have some sessions I've had in the past, nothing recently, where I feel like sometimes they just threw in a person and they said, well, this is an easy VO record. And I'm sure you get the brand enough, so you can probably translate this to the actor well enough. But I'm like, lucky them that I have these years under my belt because otherwise it's so difficult. For example, they'll say like, so we need you to just add a little bit more something to it and make it like something more cool. And you're like, okay. And you give them something a little bit more cool. And they're like, well, maybe a little faster. Oh, wait, can you slow that down? And at that point, you're just like, okay, I just have to anticipate what they want and give them what they didn't think that they fully wanted, but this is what I know they're really looking for.
Whenever the words, like you said, cool, a little bit more, it happens all the time. Like, you know, sometimes it's like they don't know how to say it. And then you're throwing shit at the wall and being like, okay, this is like my next interpretation of cool. This is my next interpretation of whatever it may be. I think to that point, Olivia, it's like that happens, I feel like more often than you think of. The creative that they put from the ad agency there has limited creative experience running a session, or what they'll do. Sometimes I feel like they'll put too many people in the session. There'll be like 8 people on the call giving feedback. And so you'll be thrown so much information and so many thoughts and feedback for one 30-second spot. You're like, we literally did that 80 different ways.
And then they end up going with take 3. Like, they're like, actually, we liked how it was.
What was the most natural? Yeah.
Sometimes also when there are like 8 people in the room that are saying something on Zoom, I think they feel like they need to say something. So that's how it becomes so many voices and so many opinions, but it's not always such. A little bit of an in-session tidbit that I always think about that I've really locked in 6 years now. I'm like, Oh, I just need to talk less. I think when I was starting out, I felt the need to be in on it. But I will literally sit in my booth and look out the window while the 15 people are talking and going back and forth until someone says, "All right, Olivia, so we're going to just do it like that." Because I'm like, okay. And that's the direction I'm going to listen to. Because otherwise, it's just voices trying to figure it out because they're kind of figuring it out too, especially if it's a newer brand or a newer vibe for a brand. They're just throwing things at the wall. I think I used to think I needed to be engaged in it and like be in it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, oh, and then, of course, there's the delay of the Source Connect and everything, and none of the jokes land. I don't make jokes anymore. I used to be like, "What? Oh, no, sorry, you
And
got it."
then they start talking and then they're like waiting for you. And they're like, no, 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 continue. And you're like, joke over. Like, what is such a good point about what you just said, Olivia, is I was trying to explain this to my husband because I hear him on calls. Like, I know what he does all day. When we go into the booth, like, he has no clue. And I'm like, that's so interesting. I know so much about his professional life. And there's a huge part that, like, unless it's another voiceover actor or maybe our agents, like, they really don't know. To your point about that, because there could be so much feedback talking, the creative agencies trying to like figure out what it is. And I used to totally feel the need, like, that's my time to collaborate. And it's like, no, 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 your time to collaborate is like when they're done and they've landed on what the direction is for that next take. I'll be sitting there, but like, you have to listen because sometimes they will have so much information that is being shared and spread. And then they're like, okay, great. Yep, we're going to do that. Olivia, you got it. And you're like, if I wasn't listening, no, I told my husband, like, my brain sometimes after a session between so much active listening, trying to interpret it, take direction, and then perform, I am tired.
It is. It's exhausting. This is work. People are like, you just go in and you say a couple lines. I'm like, I am implementing the 15 plus years in tools to make sure that this session is short and sweet and easy. My biggest compliment is when the agency is like, you made this so easy, or you get so many takes that are so good, it makes their job hard. It's a balance. Like you said, I'm listening, but I'm not trying to solve everyone's problem right then and there. I know that I can give exactly what they're needing. So I just let them go around. And then I'm like, I know that this is what you want.
Totally. You're not like attached to what they're saying. You're kind of letting them circle. You're letting them find their way. You're listening to what they emphatically are saying and sharing what they're not. I mean, like, okay, once it gets to the take, like, I kind of know the direction I'm going to try.
And then I'm really good about repeating it back. After they say 10,000 words, I'm like, so faster, more energy on this part, slower and cool at the beginning. Is that what we're saying? And they're like, yeah, that's exactly it. And I'm like, all right, cool.
I totally know what you mean. The repeating back. It's like small things that until you're there doing it all the time, you don't realize like that saves so much time in a session to be like, okay, wait, let me make sure I got you. XYZ, cool. Let's roll take.
Also, I always think about this. I don't try to befriend the engineer, but I kind of give the most respect and like direct communication to the engineer, because if the engineer is on your side, the session is so much faster and easier, because what the creative agencies will do is say, oh, wait, but I want her to say it like this. And, oh, wait, do we have a take? And if the engineer is good and on your side, they'll say, oh, in take 10, she actually did that. Let me play you back take 10. Or, oh, are you guys sure you want to keep reading it all the way through? I think we can get some better stuff from Olivia if we cut it up and do this section and give you a couple like pickups for this, versus me reading like a 2-minute script over and over. Cause they're like, let's get into the vibe. And I'm like, I got into the vibe. We're going to do for pickups, because that's where the magic is when I do an ABC. Ciao.
And that's also when you know when one, a good engineer, and I feel lucky because I feel like from even on-set experiences to voiceover, there's a lot of good engineers. I love when an engineer is like passionate, they come in, they want to be that problem solver. Like they're excited to like give a little input or even help you if like they're trying to interpret the mishmash that's going on with the creative agency. They're like, you know what, Olivia, I think let's do this. And you're like, it's just us right here. We're just doing this right now, making magic, making the problems go away.
You can't always remember the names of the 8 people on. I write them down as I hear them, because a lot of times they won't even introduce themselves. Like sometimes I have to say like, wait, I'm sorry, who
Isn't
are
the
you?
craziest when you get on a session and they're like, okay, so from your audition, we really liked this, but we want to work. And you're like, who am I talking to? How many people are in the room? What's happening?
Who are you? Yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I think I missed your name. But I always remember the engineer's name, because I'll like pinpoint to say their name. I don't know if they like you, people you know, and who likes you. If the engineer likes you, it's like smooth sailing. I'm like, thank God.
Makes or breaks how a session vibe is. You and I are lucky because we are both close. We have good relationships with our reps. What do you think a healthy relationship with reps should look like?
Man, I love DDO. I really, really do. I think my agents are just good people. It doesn't hurt that they're all women. Like, it kind of feels like they're rooting for me consistently. Down to my story that I told in our first record, DDO changed my life because I did not submit my Duncan audition in time. I thought I just didn't even want to do it because it was the pandemic and I didn't care. But my agent, Allie, shout out Allie, she's now in LA. She emailed me individually and was like, Olivia, I think you'd be really good for this. We need you to submit for it. And from there, it has changed my life booking Duncan, like the amount of money and everything. So I think from that moment, it's just kind of been a trusting, understanding relationship. I, of course, do what every actor and client should do. I'm checking in on my money. I'm making sure that things are moving forward, but I do have a trust in them. I hear stories about people stealing money, like agents stealing money or holding things back. And I feel like with DDO, they just are really honest. They care about the business a lot. So we're not having too many frivolous conversations. But Eileen, the head of VO, is quick to pick up the phone, have a personal conversation with you, figure out where you're at mentally, encourage you in different ways, figure out where you want to be. I feel lucky that I have that kind of communication with my agency. And it's the direct agents. Like, I rarely am speaking to the assistants. They're just good people. And it doesn't hurt that they are really plugged in and that it's just a good relationship. I will say that there's probably a lot of good agents. I think it's really about who meshes well with you, who you feel like you can talk to and voice problems or whatever. Like, I'm quick to text Eileen to say, hey, can we have a phone call at X, Y, and Z? And I don't know, it's quick. I just had a meeting with the head of DDO, the owner of the agency, and even having that kind of access felt like, oh, I mean, yes, it's been 6 years, but we've never needed to talk beforehand. Your agents are everything. And having an agent that is getting a ton of great auditions and sees you and sees your potential. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Well, and I think that's the thing, Olivia, is like I hear some people's stories and I'm like, God, that sucks. Like, I feel so lucky to have DPN. I was like, if that was my experience, I don't know if I would have lasted doing the work that I've been able to do. I don't think I would have been as fun, as fulfilling. Same thing with DPN. Trish, David, and Vince are like my three main people. And I've been with them all the whole time. And yesterday I messaged Trish and I was like, hey, I want to get your advice on something. It's not urgent. So like I can email it to you if you can't talk today. She called me within 30 seconds. We had a 30-minute conversation and we talked about life. We talked about the business. We talked about the craft of yo. Like, it's not a one-sided conversation. They're good people. We have a human to human connection where whenever I've wanted to travel, she's like championed my traveling and be like, yes, like you need to go see the world. Like, they want you to be a well-rounded person. And they also, like you said, they know their shit. Like, all of them are no BS. If I'm calling to be like, I want to pull 5 auditions and get advice, I want to like to get your thoughts on it, they will sit there for an hour with you and be like, abso-fucking-lutely, let's go through it. And they will line by line be like, yes, no, this. I mean, and even Trish yesterday, she's able because she's so plugged into the business too. Like, they do their part to like understand what's happening in SAG, understand that SAG non-union shift. They have good relationships with casting directors, know how to best serve you specifically, not just kind of put you in a bubble of like a trend or what's happening. And I think to your point, they know us all so well. They have these lists that are built out that are so specific of like the different types. So when an audition comes in, like they're giving us the best of the best of the best for us to have like truly the best chance that we can. And so I think that there's that I'm protecting you as a human. I'm protecting you as like a business person. I'm protecting you as like the voiceover artist and craft. Like, they have an understanding of all of those things. And there's trust. They trust me to like answer my phone. And like, if I need help, if I need a little nudge, like they'll give me the nudge or the support or validation I need, or like the hard talk. And I'm not afraid anymore. I think there was a part of me in my early 20s because they're fast and they're no BS. And I was like, oh, I don't want to bug them. And now yesterday I was like, wow, that's so cool that like I could text Trish, a partner of the company, and we have a 30-minute conversation and I feel like my brain just like exploded with ideas and creativity and things to work on because she was just like there for me.
That's really beautiful. That's crazy. That's wild. They'll go through your auditions with you. I've never heard of that. That's wild.
If you ask for it. And especially like you and I, we just had a conversation, you and I, where we're like in VO, it could kind of feel like you're in your own bubble of get the audition, record the audition, edit and pick your takes, send it in, maybe feel really good. And then you're like, how the fuck did I not hear back from that audition? I felt really good. So sometimes it's nice to have someone like look through shit with you. You know what I mean? What's working, what's not working.
I wonder if I want that. That opened my brain to, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I've definitely gotten notes on auditions. I've had specifically Allie. Allie's quick to be like, you can do better.
Back into the booth. Here we go.
All right. Okay. Yes, I did record that at 1 a.m. It's true. I was tired. But yeah, interesting. I love that relationship that you have.
I feel so lucky. It is. It feels very special. And I think I've also seen myself grow from like being more confident as a business person, being like, I know exactly the question I want to ask Trish. Like, I know where I'm at and like what I need from her to make the most out of our time together. Cause it depends. Like, when I was on my last campaign, her and I were talking every other day because of trying to coordinate things and trying to plan things. And then it gets a little quiet. And just to know that you always have them there and they're always like working on your behalf and they're your team. Like, they are truly the biggest part of your team outside of yourself.
I feel that with the slowness and maybe not having as much communication as like when you're booking a Dunkin' every other day or whatever, or a Comcast, the job that I'm consistently doing right now is not the highest paying job. They also pay really slow sometimes, and now it's been rectified. But I feel not unworthy, but kind of like a little cringy when I'm reaching out about where's this money, and I feel kind of strange. And I felt really reassured because last week, as I'm in the car with my mom, I get a call from Allie and she's like, hey, I'm on the line with Eileen, and they both are talking to me and the problem gets rectified. We end up talking for like 20 plus minutes about everything. They're saying we were like working on this and doing this, and that just made me feel so cared about, because sometimes it does feel like, oh, maybe they only are, it feels so personable and great because I'm booking big stuff. When things are a little slower, it kind of feels like, oh, am I even important enough for them to be like fighting for this couple of chunks of change? And that felt really reassuring. So I did like that. And because I'm now on the hunt for an on-camera agent, on-camera agent.
Who's listening? Who's listening?
On-camera agent.
Referrals, please.
Please,
Yeah.
please.
I said right when you got on, I was like, girl, you're in a commercial right now. It was like perfect. I was like, your makeup, the jean jacket, obviously your energy. I'm like, she's ready. She's already for the camera.
I'm looking. But they are even aware that I'm in search of that and wanting to help me and figure that out, because they know that in order for me to feel happy and good, I want to be fulfilled in all different artistic lanes. And as great as VO is, it's definitely not the most artistically fulfilling versus like musical theater and stuff like that.
And I think to your point, Olivia, that's it. A good agent cares about you as like the artist, the person. And I think like, you know, Trish and I have had conversations, and same with Vince, about money. Because it's like when you have in one of those like big bookers and you're like, oh, it's a slow season, like you do, you're like, God, I feel like I don't, this sounds messed up, but like I feel like I don't deserve as much of their attention or as much of their validation and like their love. And they're always like, no, like that's part of the game. Whether you're here or here, we got your back. Like that's our job, is to like have your back. And so I feel like that's exactly what you had with DDO, where they're like, we're good.
With VO, it's like you could book that $50,000 job tomorrow. I think the investment of the agent's attention, it's an unconditional attention and love, because they know, well, one, they may care about you, yes, but two, you could be sitting on a gold mine. You never know when it's going to go off. I was making pennies before I booked Dunkin', and I made them a lot of money. So, which my mother reminds me of all the time.
We need the moms for that though. Doreen, my mom, if you're listening, she's probably not. She's like that too. She will always be like, don't you forget, they need you too. Like, you've done really well for them. Like, no, Doreen will be the first one to be like, who are we fighting? What's happening?
Yeah, Mary Elizabeth Washington says the same thing. She's like, you are the table. You're the one that has the gift. I'm like, thank you.
Yes. You're like,
Biggest
more,
fan.
please. And yes. And the intensity, like they need that mom intensity to really like shake it up. We talked about some green flags of like good communication, rep valuing you as a whole person, like the other sides of your artistry and the business side of you, feeling like you have a team, feeling like there's trust, all that. What are some red flags?
The list is small for me because I haven't experienced too many things. I don't know if they're necessarily red flags, but when I was signed with my agency here in Atlanta, I got every audition sent to me. Male, female, young, old, different races. And you had to just sort through which ones applied to you. I did not feel like I had a personable relationship with them, maybe. It just wasn't, not that I'm with a boutique agency right now, but they were just so big. It felt like they were just kind of throwing things at the wall, and I kind of had to figure out which ones would stick. Other red flags, I guess, like if anyone's asking you for money up front, that's kind of wild. An agent shouldn't be asking you for money up front.
And think about that. The reason that is too, Olivia, if people don't know, is because agents make money when you make money. They make a commission. Like that's how it's structured. So like they're incentivized to get you booking and to get you work. And if they're making money up front, why are they incentivized to like work as hard on your behalf?
Scams. It's a scam, really. I have been fortunate enough that, I mean, you've been in this way longer than I have. In my 6 years, only like half a year, 1 year was spent with my agency here in Atlanta, and the rest has been with DDO. I kind of was put in this bubble of DDO where I didn't even know people weren't getting instructions on their auditions about when to slate and when not to slate, or how to structure the MP3s to send in. I got a couple of those questions when I was speaking at the One Voice conference in Dallas, and I was like, what do you mean, do you slate or not? I don't understand. It's like right there.
Please slate or do not slate.
Yes, but I'm sure you've experienced or have heard more horror stories.
You and I have been lucky that, again, DPN's been like my main agent the entire time that I've been doing this.
How many years have you been with them?
10 years, which is crazy. I can't believe it because it feels like I've been doing this for a long time. And then it also feels like it's so fast. Like part of me feels like I'm in year 2. Not like professionalism wise, but more just like it still feels fresh. I think because the industry changes so much, I feel I could go into battle way differently because I have more tools and more experience, but like there's still always a newness. Like I still feel this freshness with it that is shocking to me after a decade, but I guess that's a good thing. So it's like it keeps you on your toes. There's always a new thing that year where I'm like, I know X, Y, and Z, and then there's like something else thrown my way. And I'm like, okay, I'll figure that out. That's like the thing this year.
What do you mean by that? Like, what are you
I think it's
learning?
more business wise stuff. It's more how the industry has changed post COVID. I feel like there's been a massive shift from SAG being so predominantly the thing into companies splitting into SAG and non-union, which I want to have a whole conversation with you about. And that changes things. That changes the hustle of things. I think it's a lot more urgent. Back in the day, I'd be like, Maddie, it's Monday and you're booked on Thursday at 1 p.m. in Lime Studios, and here's your scripts. I'll update you if there. And now it's 11 p.m. and it's like, are you free at 8 a.m. tomorrow? Scripts might be sent beforehand. You might get them in the booth. That's not like everything, but like there's a lot of hustle. There's a lot more urgency.
Why do you think that is?
I feel like it comes from the top down. It comes from like the ad agencies, how they're relaying information to the agents, and then the agents relaying it to us. So I think it's starting there. I think part of it is because when COVID happened, we all had to get home studios. That was like non-negotiable. It's like, if you want to work, figure out your home studio situation. You're going to be doing every audition and every session from home. And so we were all available all the time. We were sitting at home and doing nothing. And they were like, great an audition, great a session. So I think the ad agencies like got used to it being acceptable that everything's that fast paced, because we were all like, yeah, what else are we doing? That's my theory, is that COVID just started this trend of like, it's not that like we're expected to be at home all the time. Like people know it's not COVID anymore, but there is this, typically how DPN will work is if we have an audition, it'll be like, great, it's due tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, typically. Maybe 10, maybe 11, kind of in that window, which is noon East Coast time. I just had one today right before we got on. It's due by 4 Eastern. And I'm like, okay, well, we're doing this. I have an hour. I'm going to do it now and turn it in. Like technically there's a little bit of a window, but not that much time. I had shit planned. It's not enough. Like I have to kind of configure. And also now, like if you're traveling with VO, since you don't need to get on camera, you don't need to be on a set somewhere. I think the expectation more or less is like you're bringing a travel rig.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you're working.
I haven't been doing that much travel, but like when I went to Italy, I didn't bring anything and I just booked out and just said, I'm not available. I'm not going to bring my stuff to Italy and try and figure it out. But I traveled to Toronto to film a on-camera commercial, and I did bring my stuff because one, I had a Wednesday session that I always have, so I had to do that job. But then also, you know, I'm in a hotel. I had a lot of time off, and I'm like, of course I'm going to do auditions if I can. I don't mind the travel rig, but I am very intentional about when I want to travel with my stuff and when I'm like, I am on vacation, I actually don't want to bring anything. But there's times where I always bring my headphones and my phone. So like there's something that's huge that my agent's like, please, even if you can send with a headphone situation, then send it. Speaking to the availability in like home studios, something that I just recorded for earlier this week, we finished in our 2 hours that we had booked from 12 to 2. I go on, I live my life. Luckily I was home because at like 3:30, 4 o'clock, my agent's like, hey, can you come back into the booth? They want to do a quick pickup. And I'm like, well, thank goodness I didn't go out of town.
Legitimately. To me, that's the norm now. Like, I hear that and I'm like, oh yeah, we're back in the day. They either wouldn't do the pickup or they'd have to literally book a whole new session for you in the
In
studio.
the studio, which was so expensive.
So they would be like, okay, we might need to pick up Thursday at noon. We're going to see if we can work without it. But it was like you even had time and space to be like, is the pickup happening? Is it not? It typically wasn't like that day, right? Of like, just get her back in the booth.
Yeah, and I was like, "Well, luckily I am home." And my agent, of course, was like, "They're gonna pay a pickup fee," and I'm like,
Yeah,
duh,"
of
like,
course. We love a pickup fee.
and I'm like, "Oh yeah," and it was a 5-minute new line that I had to do, and then I get paid for it. So I'm almost like, "Thank God!" Like that's really nice, more money. But yeah, it's just so interesting. Like I could have just driven away 2 hours somewhere, and I guess they would have just been like, "I guess we'll do it tomorrow." Everything is so much quicker. Yeah, when you say it like that, and I think the aspect of not having the in person, like the only way to record, yeah, having a home studio definitely makes it availability. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we've also talked, Olivia, and I love this. I could talk to you forever, especially about VO because it's so nice. I try to talk to my husband, and like I said, he's not on the booth. But, like he doesn't know. He doesn't know like what's
He doesn't know
happening or like
ball. He doesn't know ball.
we've talked about should you get more than one agent or not. That's become a thing too. Of like I should have agents all over the country covering me in every single market. What is your take?
You can speak better to this, but my feelings have been I was told that when I went to that voiceover conference, which kind of unlocked this door of things I've never been exposed to in VO, which were people who have more than one agency. And I was like, wait, what? I could have like a Chicago agent or like a DC agent or whatever. I've talked to my agents about it. I've talked to you about that. I've talked to my agents about it. I don't know right now. I think I'll revisit it. My agents feel strongly that I kind of shouldn't because how do I know the other agency is really looking out for me or the exclusivity overlap of possibly booking something, let's say like I book a Verizon and let's say I already booked AT&T somewhere else and what if that doesn't work out and what if I book something that holds a really long exclusivity that my DDO agents could get me something bigger for and longer. I don't know, but what's the tea?
So yeah, I think there's like pros and cons. And I think we're lucky because we both have good rep where
Hashtag we're lucky.
hashtag lucky girl syndrome. We are lucky. Yeah, I have an agent in San Francisco, one in Denver and one in Chicago. I'm from Chicago, so that's kind of how that came about. I would say, look, DPN gets me 90% of my auditions and all of the really, 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 really good ones are coming from DPN. The woman in San Francisco is amazing. And her and I have a deal where she knows I'm with DPN. And so if I get the same audition, I'm going to choose DPN because I have a longer standing relationship. So I do get some good auditions from her that I don't get from DPN. It's rare, but when it happens, I'm like, wow, that's so great. Like I didn't get this from DPN. I don't know how I didn't get it from DPN, but like, yay, that I get it from you. And she's really responsive and she's great. It's few or far between. Like if that was the only rep I had, I would need other rep. And same thing, my one in Denver, great, lot smaller stuff, but like she's super professional. She's very polite. And the one in Chicago, it's kind of the same thing as San Francisco. Like when they do get me auditions, it's great. And they're DPN level auditions. Sometimes it's the same as DPN. And then it's just few and far between. It's maybe once a week, not how DPN is where it's here's 3 today or whatever. So the volume's a lot lower with all of the people I have. I have friends who have regional reps places that keep them very busy. I think to your exact point is the main issue is that sometimes those opportunities are smaller, which is fine because like, look, girls got to eat. It
Please,
is what it is.
please, baby need new shoes.
I need new shoes. I want a new desk chair. Like I want something. But the exclusivity is the biggest roadblock that I've seen people deal with and DPN has warned me of too, where it's really hard if you get a Starbucks thing in a smaller Austin, Texas market and you're like, F yes, I want to take it. And then all of a sudden DDO gets you Dunkin' 2.0 and you're like, damn it, I'm in this exclusivity. And like Vince, my agent, has told me stories where this girl booked this like massive Starbucks campaign and he didn't know she had done like a non-union job with exclusivity in a different regional market. And he was able to work it out by the grace of God. But he was like, that was stressful. And he's like, it's hard when he's like, I don't know that that's happening. So he's like, I don't know how to actively do my job for you. And like, talk with the poor girl. Like, that would be a nightmare where you're like, here I am, I'm working. I just want to work. And then it causes this whole kerfuffle because those agents aren't talking to one another. And as artists, like there's times where I'm like, am I still in an exclusivity deal with that? Like, I don't really know for sure. Sometimes I know, sometimes I don't. So that's the biggest, I think, red flag. And I've also heard stories of my friends. And this, I don't think I finished my red flags of people. I've heard some of those smaller agencies, maybe I've heard some bad communication, like aggressive communication, just like anyone who talks to you like you're not a person. No, red flag, red flag. Or anyone who makes Jake, my husband's always like people who are funny with money. Like anytime that people are like funny around the conversations of money, red flag. This is a business.
I'm with you. I can't speak too much on my personal experience, but I do know what you're talking about. Just the communication style. I think my DDO voiceover agents are really patient with me. And I think that's why the relationship works. As we touched on in the last episode, like my ADHD is wild. Like, I think it's definitely a superpower because I feel really artistically tapped in. But when it comes to auditions, getting them in on time and stuff like that, no matter what the frustrations may be on either end, we always talk to each other respectfully, clearly, sometimes tough-ish, but there's a respect there. There's just a level of respect. I even find that with me specifically, someone has to be a little bit amused by me for us to work well together because otherwise it could either err on annoying. So if there's an amusement that they find in my quirks and stuff, then we work well together because there's just a love and I even think back to like my high school acting teacher. She'd be like, you need more discipline. Like, you need more discipline and you would shine. I'm like, yeah, but look at me. And she's like, okay, but still get it together. So I definitely feel the funny with money. Ooh, honey. Oh my gosh. I'm so quick to turn into a different person when it comes to how money is being handled, specifically money that I'm making. Because I'm showing up, I'm doing the job, the money needs to come. Like, I'm bright, chipper, charismatic. I do it quick. You're paying because the session will probably last a shorter amount of time than we're booked because I'm giving you greatness. So pay me on time.
Well, and yes, always. It's a business. Like they know that. They'd want you to pay them on time. So I had a situation once with a manager. So mind you, they take 10% of everything. They were a voiceover manager. And I once got this random email from the owner of the company out of the blue. And I had booked a couple like smaller jobs with them. And so like things were okay. I was very over inundated with auditions. Like they were the type where it's like, here's everything. And I'm like, oh my God, my mind is spinning with
50
like
characters on a new
it
animated TV show coming out. Sing for all of
due
them.
by 6 p.m. And you're like, and here's 20 other auditions, figure it out. And you're like, oh my gosh. He emailed me and was like, because a lot of people are also doing more freelance voiceover than I think ever before. I don't. So like a lot of people, we talked about direct marketing where I think they're getting jobs personally where that's never been the case. I've always really gotten jobs unless friends ask me to do something. Like it's always been through DPN or one of my agents. And he was like, hey, because they would essentially send you on the first of every month an invoice for you to essentially be like, here's your percentage of other jobs that I've booked. Because DPN would cut them their check and it would go directly to them. So it's any freelance work that I were to be getting, which I wasn't getting. So DPN, if I booked a job, they would take their commission and then they would send the other commission to the management company. And then this management company would be like, what other 10% can we get from everything else that you've made? And I'm like, that's all that I've made is like through DPN. So I was having a bad year. It was the slowest year that I've ever had, which was already hard enough to deal with on my own. And this manager was like, hey, so we haven't gotten an invoice. We got the stuff from DPN, but like you're telling me you haven't worked outside of DPN. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm telling you. So like one, I already feel shitty enough that like I'm not working as much this year. Like beat me while I'm down. Why don't you? And then also like, hi, how are you? Like, we haven't talked in 6 months. Like, this is the first correspondence I'm going to be getting is literally him essentially saying he doesn't believe me, that like I owe them money.
They said, you're lying. You're lying. You
Yeah,
made more
I
money.
know. That was a really bad taste in my mouth. I was like, ooh, I don't trust you. I don't like you. And so that was like this beginning of the end of that relationship. And that's why I always say to people, bad rep is worse than no rep. You don't know what their reputation is like and you're attached to them. They could be giving you bad advice. They could be breaking your spirit down. Bad rep is worse than no rep.
A friend of mine, no names will be said, but I heard that they found out that a friend of theirs found out that she had been blacklisted by her agent because her agent didn't like her. And so the agent decided because a bad rep is worse than no rep, they blacklisted her and kind of kept her in this control thing because they were signed with. It's so wild. It's better to just not have anybody than to be blacklisted by a crazy rep.
Who's supposed to be working with you? I know. You hear stories like that, and I'm like, why not just let them go? Why not just be like, hey, it's not working? Like, go on and find someone else who's better for you. Like, we don't mesh. A lot of people ask, and I'm sure they ask you too, they'll be like, how do I get an agent? What do I do? Like, what does that look like? It's hard because you and I got ours in obscure ways. It was not the traditional, like, seeking and searching. Out of everything you do know, Olivia, if someone came up to you and was like, I don't have representation, like what's the best way about getting rep? What's the best way to stand out in a submission? What should I do? What would you tell them?
My agents have said this because we have monthly check-ins where we have meetings with the whole agency and everyone who's signed. And I've asked because I have friends that are like, I want to submit to your agency. And my agents have said, send them an email. Well, I guess this is like if I'm attached to it. I don't know about cold submitting. I don't know. But if you are getting a friend referral and it's for, let's say, DDO, they said to send them an email saying that they know me or whoever your referral person is, link me in the email and send individual MP3s of like no longer than 30 seconds. No links. They want the actual MP3 in the email because they're scared about like clicking on a link and it like bugging their whole thing. So they just want to be able to push play and I guess label it animated reel or commercial takes or audiobook. I will say this. I have a friend who's on Broadway, just finished her last show, looking for new representation. She's now signing with somebody, but she was looking for new representation. She was saying she was cold submitting to agencies. Just because you have this huge resume, actors are still submitting. If I do have another conversation with DDO and I do want to look for new reps in markets that maybe they don't represent, and we do have an agreement that would be exactly like yours where it would air to DDO if I get the same audition, and it would be open communication with DDO with what I'm booking or what I'm doing with the other agency, that I'm going to have to cold submit. I think you just send the email with your stuff. But it's like, even if you are, let's say like a Broadway star, like my friend, people are still cold submitting if they're looking for new reps. She ended up being referred by a friend. That's usually the best way. But I mean, yeah, you have experience with cold submitting.
And that's the thing. I think if I were to be like, if I had to start from square one again, what would I do? And I think to your point, yeah, referrals are always great. Cold submissions, yeah, it's the easiest way. Like if they don't like your email, they could just delete it. Or if they do need you, they'll click on it and it could work. It's very little effort and energy. The trick with cold submissions is like some people write paragraphs and paragraphs. It's like, what information does that agent need to know? They need to know what your home studio setup is. They need to know, are you union, non-union? Like, what's your union status? What do they need to do their job? That's what should be in the cold submission along with your reel. And I do think that reels are the only way they know what you're capable of doing. So like you need to have some sort of professional demo. I don't think people need to go spend $5,000 to like get a demo done, but something. You need something to be like, here are a couple slices of my strengths as a VO artist that I feel like put my best foot forward with brands that I could be working for and booking. Here's all the information you would need if we started working together tomorrow so we can make money as fast as possible. Like that's what I think needs to be in a submission. I've heard a lot of people have luck meeting people at conferences. That's what I've heard. I've never been to a VO conference, but I've had many of friends be like, I met so-and-so at this conference. And I was like, wow, obviously that's expensive. You're paying for a hotel, you're paying for a flight, you're paying for the ticket. You get access to meeting people face to face. And it's that human connection we've been talking about. So I think there's pros and cons. Like that would be something I would maybe consider if I had a couple years of experience, maybe with smaller agencies and I was trying to like level up and I wasn't able to like break through that level.
Yeah, I've only been to one conference, so I can't really speak to that. It's really just where I learned that so many other people had so many other agents. So I do want to say I am looking, but it would be like a respectful agreement with DDO being my main and everything else being supplemental and important, but it wouldn't override the stuff that DDO sends me. Anyway, so that's my spiel. Thank you. I'm like, sign me.
Here, sign me. I'm here. We talked a little bit earlier about how we miss the rapport of going in person for casting. And I think on the thought of classes, I've taken a couple classes. Honestly, it's been more recent, like in the past 2 years. I've worked personally in one-on-one coaching with Carol Kimball, who's a casting director. I've taken an animation class with Charlie Adler, which was great. It was very intense. He's amazing. It is like a 4-week boot camp. Like you are getting worked. Everything's online. That was interesting. I did that last summer. I've taken one-on-ones with Tina Marasco. And then she also, if you're part of her library, she calls them workouts. And it's like 10 people, kind of like hot seat coaching. It's fantastic. And then I've done a couple workshops at the Voice Caster. So those are all with casting directors. So I would say that I've never taken a VO class outside of that. So that's why I really like the one-on-one coaching, because it's specific to you. And a lot of the casting directors that I just mentioned that do it, they're seeing all the auditions, they're seeing the trends, they're working with the ad agencies. I feel like a lot of, especially Tina and Carol, they've got such a good way of talking to the actor you and like giving you notes for like the actor in you and brass tacks business. And so when you're doing a one-on-one session and you're working material, they're listening to other auditions that you've done. Like it's a great one-on-one little boost to be like, okay, I don't need to like rebuild the entire foundation of my career, but like I get little specific tidbits of information to like try or bring into my audition process. Or I was having the worst year of my career and I did a one-on-one session with Carol Kimball and she's like, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm not well right now. And she's like, let's talk about that first. Cause she's like, that is so important for like how you're bringing your energy into the audition. So we had like 10 minutes of a little like life coaching chat. And then we got to work and we went through some auditions that I had recorded that I didn't know she was casting them, but she was. And then we worked material together. And she'll ask you specifically, like, what is it that you want to work on? And she'll pull material before your session. And then I booked like the biggest campaign, this client I worked with for 2.5 years, 3 weeks later after my session with Carol. I feel like she woo-sawed like my inner spirit.
You make me want to take classes.
Or at least the one-on-one coaching. Like even right now, I just talked to Trish, my agent, about something I wanted to work on. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to email Tina Marasco, another coach I love to work with, because Tina's so good at talking to like the actor in you and being able to be like, okay, instead of the note being like, for some auditions, do less. Well, what does that mean? Tina will put that into a story. Here's how we can like create a story around your commercial script so that you're doing less. You're not like performing.
In order to work with Tina Marasco, you just email her individual. Well, you have a relationship, but
That's how I did it though, even in before.
and she says, this is when I'm available. These are my rates, blah, 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 blah.
Yep, she'll give you all the info. I mean, that's how Carol is too. That's how the Voice Caster, I think they also do one-on-one coaching, but they have a lot of like their workshops and classes available on their website. So you can just like, oh, that workshop works for my day. And they do some different stuff where it's like some of it will be like a class where you're working material. Other stuff will be demystifying the casting process. So more of a seminar. Like Kelly took us through how she casts a project from start to finish, like behind the scenes.
That's what I like. I need that.
Yeah. To be like, no, like that's interesting. Like we've been doing this for a long time. And like I knew ish, but like I didn't really know from start to finish. Like from the conversations they're having with creative agencies to actually the person booking the damn job and like getting into their booth. Yeah.
I think I would benefit from that. I've never taken a class. I've never even had a coaching session because similar to what you just said, it's like I was working. If it's not broke, why fix it? Why change it up? Why have anyone else say anything if they're liking what I'm giving? But now in this like slower-ish season right now, I'm like, well, I think it would be helpful to just have a personable, cool conversation with someone who is doing the casting, doing the picking. And I'm like, even hearing about the behind the scenes of how people are getting chosen or what they're hearing would be so beneficial for me to get into the brain of like not feeling so isolated and alone in my booth. Because I know that that's like a huge part of VO. Because even like our conversations inspire me and make me feel just more grounded in this craft versus just feeling like doing auditions is a chore or it's just such a lonely field of work. So that feels better because I know that whenever I do speak to someone who's in the industry, I feel like ignited and
Yes.
and more in it versus like, I have some auditions to do, and then back to like regular life, you know?
Yeah. No, and that honestly, Olivia, I think that's part of it because I don't think people should go and like spend a shitload of money taking every single class. Like, I think it has to be like, what's the purpose? Like, okay, I want to get better at animation. Great. There's a million animation teachers. Or like with Tina or Carol, these one on one sessions. It's like, Tina, I want to work on this. And she'll be like, great. Like, let's unpack all of that. Like, emotionally, business wise, the craft, let's figure that out. And so I think it's nice to kind of like fine tune. I also think too, my friend Amy Austin, who's a mindset coach, she always talks about how we also have to be, like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And also, how can we intentionally receive feedback and know what to take and what to like throw the fuck away? Because not all feedback is like helpful.
Or tailored to you. Things can be just so specific. I think that, yeah, not all notes are your notes because sometimes you can do the same thing that you've been told other people have been told not to do, i.e., like for me, improv or whatever. And it still works for you. Like they like that. It feels natural and is kind of like oh wait, I know we kind of said we didn't like it, but now that we're hearing it in this way, that's actually exactly what we wanted. So yes, I like that, throwing away the feedback that doesn't fit you. I look at VO, I look at art, I look at a lot of things as so mutable and so not one size fits all. Because even if you look at Broadway, for example, there's different people that play the same character and the character is built this way, but then when this person moves into this role and they do it like this, it's so special and so good that they're like, yeah, let's run with that. Where originally they were like, oh, this character will never be like this. We're such energetic beings and everything is so mutable and movable and changeable and so not set in stone, even if the higher ups or whatever the powers that be say they are, that I'm like, there's opportunity for change all the time. For example, my friend ended up booking Elder Cunningham. The character is written as this big, goofy, funny guy. My classmate is very thin. Everyone said like this character will always be this really, really big guy. That's where a lot of the comedy comes from of him on stage. My friend booked it like right before the pandemic, and he, was up against a lot of huge guys. So that's the point. That role was written for a specific type. It was always going to be that type because of his talents and what he brought into the room. They were like, we're totally flipping it on its head because we want to cast you. So that's so special. It's every feedback, every rule, everything is not meant for everybody. You can be the one that switches it up, changes it, and makes it special. The hope is that, like, sometimes I read it and I'm like, that's so not me that I have to just give me, because if I try and give what they're asking for in that way, it's going to feel inauthentic and not true. So hopefully they'll just like what I give them because it'll feel authentic and true.
And to that point, no matter what, even if they hear your audition and they're like, ooh, totally, like that's not what we were thinking, but it's authentic. Like if you try the way that's inauthentic, like that never works. That never works. They literally know. It's like skip, next. Like you could hear it. It's like you're wearing it and it's like over your skin. And they're like, I just want to see your face. Just take the mask off. Like that's how it feels. Where if you just are like, you know what? I see the specs. Okay, I'm just going to do me with the words, kind of like fuck the exact specs that they're asking for. I feel you actually have a better opportunity of like being seen and heard because it's authentic and you're giving that authentic performance. You are not trying to like perform in the way that you think they want, which we know half the time they don't even know.
No, I love also when I get auditions that are sent to me and then like 3 weeks later they send the audition again with totally new specs because they're like, wait, that was absolutely not what we wanted at all. And they're like, please actually scrap everything that we said before because it's mutable. It's all changeable. They're working it out just like you are. I just want to show in my auditions that I'm a good collab partner. I want to show that like it'll be fun and easy to work with me because I have enough tools, I have enough confidence and can give you what you want. And I can play around with some things that I'm thinking of too. And maybe that's also even more what you want, but you didn't even know you wanted it.
So that was a wrap on part 1 of my conversation with Olivia Sarafina Washington. We talked all things agents, the red flags and green flags when it comes to representation, building a good relationship with your representation. We also talked a lot about auditioning, which you guys are so lucky to get to hear from Olivia because she is like the creme de la creme when it comes to auditioning, specifically in the commercial VO world. She's even taught workshops on auditioning in different conferences because she is really good at bringing her own unique flair and fun, which completely makes her stand out and is why I definitely think she's booked to the magnitude that she has and continues to work at that magnitude. And we also talked a little bit about classes and different community building things. Part two of my conversation with Olivia Sarafina Washington is coming in a couple of weeks, and we dive into all the things about money and voiceover. So, what does this career path look like when you actually start making money? How do you need to prep yourself mentally so that your mindset is able to handle a different level of abundance and things that you need to do to prepare yourself so that you actually know how to receive this money and make wise investments and things that you need to be prepared for when this time in your career comes? Because if it happened for me, if it happened for Olivia, it can absolutely happen for you too. It's a really fun conversation. Her and I both get very vulnerable and we share kind of some of our fears and some of our successes and all the different things all around money. It's a fun one. Stick around in a couple weeks so you can hear us dive into all things money. You're the real hero if you've made it this far. Thanks so much for hanging out today, and check out the show notes for any resources or cool info mentioned in today's episode or places to follow along if you want to hang out some more. I'm rooting for you today and always. Stay messy.